Welcome to another episode of You Don't Know Jack with Lydia and Matt. How's it going?
Survived another week.
You know, listen, it was a beautiful week to survive. The weather has been mild.
By winter standards, I'll agree with that.
Okay, good. No snow.
No snow, but I hate the winter.
I know you do, but it's sunny right now.
It is sunny.
It feels nice.
The sun is shining on Podcast Hill.
It is.
I'm in a sweatshirt. For those who obviously can't see us, I'm in sweatpants and a sweatshirt. My feet are freezing. Lydia's sitting here in a t-shirt. Like I just can't.
I'm a hot-blooded Greek. What do you want?
I know. I just can't. And you know, insert lawyer joke here. I'm very cold-blooded. Clearly.
That's why we balance each other out.
But I'm just sitting here thinking,
I'm
like,
hot. You're
how
cold.
is she not cold? I've
I'm
been
not
thinking
cold.
that since we.
Really?
Yes, I've been thinking that since the minute you got here. Like my arms would be like just covered in goose flesh.
Really?
Or goosebumps, whatever.
Yeah, I understood what you meant.
You know.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, and I have no socks or shoes on, so I'm barefoot.
Right, and I have socks and shoes on, and my feet are freezing.
Do you want my portable heater?
No, I want to make a fire in the podcast studios.
It's not that cold for everybody. Just he's very sensitive.
Your definition of cold.
Temperature
I mean,
sensitive.
yeah. I mean, I guess if I was standing out in the Arctic with nothing on but a smile, I would say, yeah, it's not cold compared to that.
Jesus.
But I mean,
it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
I mean, the heat hasn't really been on in the house this whole past week. I mean, it kicks on every once in a while. I mean,
well, it's set at like 46.
It's set at a balmy 66 to 68, depending.
My thermometer has never seen 66 degrees.
Wow.
Unless the furnace has malfunctioned.
It's clear to me that you didn't grow up with a father from New England.
Yeah. No, I did not.
He's like, this isn't cool.
Yeah.
Put a sweater on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've had it's been a big week for Baltimore. Some positive, some negative, but definitely a big week.
Started very badly, but it's been trending in the right direction.
I agree. So, I guess we'll start with the bad news first, and then we'll move on to the good news.
So the bad news being the AFC Championship game.
The AFC Championship game was frustrating.
Yeah.
I will say I almost lost my voice on that one because it was very frustrating. Ravens, for those who don't know, didn't win that game.
No, it was 17-10. I thought after the first two series, I thought the Ravens defense absolutely suffocated Kansas City.
They did.
But the offense was out of sync the whole time. And everyone's going to blame Lamar, and Lamar does get some of the blame.
Yeah.
But also, you had an offense that, ran the ball, like, I think a total of like 12 times.
Yeah.
Like designed runs.
I mean, Lamar ran the ball the most.
Yeah. Oh, but you only had 3 runs for each of your running backs. So 6 running plays for your running backs. The offense was out of sync. And I read this I think in the Baltimore Sun or somewhere. The Ravens were never down by more than 10 points, but they acted as though they were down by 30.
Yeah, they did.
And
they
it
acted
just
defeated.
And then, you pile on some just really stupid penalties that they took. Some unsportsmanlike. Now, again, some like the roughing the passer, personal fouls. That's the nature of the game.
Sure.
I get that. Like those don't really.
They don't
like the one guy, the guy's trying to get Mahomes. His hand comes up, hits Mahomes in the face, right in the helmet. I mean, it has to be a penalty. I get that.
Yeah, but I mean, it was
that's
intentional.
No, that's the game.
Yeah.
But like, there's the one like it was clearly you took an extra step and you hit and then when you hit him, you had your helmet like there's chin. Like, come on, man, don't do that. Roquan Smith takes one. Zay Flowers takes one.
I just think they didn't play with their heads. They played with their hearts, and the emotions got the better of them. And, once you go down that road, it's really hard to pull back. And I think that, for as intense of a team that as Baltimore is, and their defense was killer, you can't sit there and think that you're not going to have some sort of emotional impact on that game, but they were not able to control that emotion at all. Yeah. And it just sort of unraveled very painfully throughout that game.
I thought the Ravens looked outcoached. I thought they looked outthought.
They were.
I thought they looked outplayed. And again, some of that blame goes to the one interception Lamar threw. I mean, why are you throwing that in there? But he's also like the guy also probably got jostled or bumped. I'm not sure it was a penalty, but I get why. But I thought that was a bad decision.
Yeah,
it looked like a panic decision where there was still plenty of time left. Don't make that throw.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, and normal so the Baltimore crowd is fantastic. The decibel levels are really high. Everybody was that's a hard stadium to play in, but I think that that your team should feel confident in that sound and noise and everything and should feel at home. That they were at home and they still felt threatened.
And I also think, and I'm sure part of it was him, but part of it was their offense. you didn't let Lamar be Lamar. Like,
No.
he would be back there and have a lot of time to throw,
had a
but it's
ton
got to
of
be like 1 read, 2 read, go. Because, by the way, he's the most dynamic player on the field.
Yep.
The only guy on offense that the Ravens have that moves like him, Zay Flowers. Okay,
Yes.
especially once Mitchell got hurt.
Yeah.
So he's your most explosive offensive player.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want him to throw the ball because he is a quarterback and he's a good one. He's going to be an MVP again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, he does make dynamic plays with his legs, and it's like it's like, I don't know if it was him,
he just
the
stood
coordinator.
there.
Yeah, like that's
He's like,
not
just run the ball.
like that's not, don't
1, 2,
be
3.
who you are.
Right. And I think he was, I don't know. I think as it happens in sports, especially, you get the yips. And I think that, unfortunately, they got the yips at the wrong time.
But, people were bagging on him, this and that. And someone did point out, John Elway didn't win a Super Bowl until his 15th season.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning didn't win until his 9th. Look, Lamar Scott, he's
young.
Isn't he going to be the youngest guy to ever win 2 MVP awards? There's a lot of, he's got a lot of road ahead of him. So, look, there are not many guys that I would say I'll take him instead of Lamar Jackson. Probably one of them was playing against the Ravens. That's the thing. So, but look, it's disappointing. And the Ravens are going to look different. There's going to be guys that are going to be gone. I mean, I think Patrick Queen is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you get Clowney back on a friendly deal or not, because he could have reinvigorated his career. I think Justin Madubuike will be back on a franchise tag. You're going to lose multiple of the offensive linemen because you need to.
Yeah,
they cost too much and they're not good enough.
Right.
I
think Hamilton had a hell of a game.
Oh, he's
all over the place,
and that's what guys are saying. They're like, that's a future defensive MVP.
Yeah,
the league. Like, he's special.
And the Chiefs gave him tons of props to be like, man, Hamilton was like, he played a hell of a game.
Yeah.
He was all over the place. He was all over us, and he was anywhere you thought. Like, where did this guy come from? And that's the thing. So he stood out to me in the game as like.
And by the way,
he's been that way all season.
Even though he took us to repetitive, Roquan Smith is such the heart and soul of that defense.
Yeah.
He is the modern incantation of Ray Lewis for that team. Again, I'm not saying he's Ray Lewis, but he is. He's the heart and soul. He runs that defense.
Yeah.
And it flows through him. So look, the Ravens are going to be real good next year.
Yeah.
So don't. But yeah,
it was just tough. It was a tough game to watch.
It's a tough loss.
The Lions, speaking of tough losses, are up the entire game and then just lost it at the second half, and the 49ers ended up winning that game. It was a fun game, and good on the Lions. That organization has been coming up the last 3 years.
Yeah,
and they made it to a championship.
And by the way, and they played the way that they've played all year. So people say, "Oh, Dan Campbell going for 4th down." This is what they've done all year.
I was going to say that's nothing new for them.
The Lions, unlike where I thought the Ravens weren't necessarily true to themselves, the Lions were exactly true to themselves.
Yeah, and I think that. It was exciting to watch because you're like, whoa, these guys are being explosive. And then the 49ers slowly picked away at them and then ended up winning.
Look, I still think the Lions are on the rise.
Yeah.
I think their defense has been a problem all year long for them. It got exposed in that game. I mean, the Ravens absolutely exposed them in October.
Yeah. So they have things to work on.
But they are a ascending football team.
Yeah.
Now, interesting, they're going to be a very tough conference because clearly also ascending is Green Bay.
Yeah.
The youngest team in the NFL. Love looks like they're going to hit 3 in a row on quarterbacks, which is amazing. It's going to be a tough conference. Tough division, I should say. So
the Super Bowl is set. It's going to be the Chiefs and the 49ers. The Chiefs for the 3rd year.
Yeah. And I just find it's not that exciting of a Super Bowl for me.
I mean, I'm not into it. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. And, I watch. Yeah. Do I really care? No.
I'm watching for Usher.
Yeah. Usher.
Yeah. So he's going to be the halftime show is Usher, which should be fun. I think that's going to be fun, actually.
Yeah.
And I'll have to ask. I have a friend who does advertising, so I'll see what Super Bowl commercial he helped write this year. That's always fun. Yeah. I mean, it is. I don't have a dog in the fight.
No.
I haven't had a dog in the fight all year.
Yeah.
You know that.
But you have Gerard Mayo going to have the number 3 overall pick.
I'm excited. I think it's going to be interesting for me. Hopefully in my lifetime we'll have a resurgence of a fantastic New England winning season.
Yeah, but look, the Patriots are never going to do what they did.
No.
It's never been done.
No.
And it won't ever be done again.
And I'm glad I got to see it.
Yeah, that is the run of runs.
Yeah.
Okay, it was fun.
It was the
ultimate dynasty. because of its longevity, almost 15, 17 years where
just
they
not
were
gonna happen ever
constantly,
again.
even if they weren't in the Super Bowl or winning it, it always ran through.
Yes, and I think that you're never going to see that longevity with coaching. Probably
with coaching,
again.
Quarterback play,
No.
that combination together. No.
Absolutely not.
One last football note. I will note that the Commanders finally hired a coach. They hired Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, former head coach of Atlanta. Even when you read the Post stuff, not exactly the inspiring hire that they
most exciting coach.
Yeah, I think. Look, I think he's a passionate guy, but I mean, they're talking about really the offensive rebuild. They're going to get a quarterback.
I don't
know. But the Lions and the Texans, coordinators said thanks, but no thanks. We're going to stay coordinators.
Well, listen, you have to have one guy who's going to take the leap, right?
Right.
Because the Commanders isn't exactly like, I don't know, a primo job.
Well, and I guess the thought is, I think they think they've thought for a long time they're a primo job, but no, I think there's still some skepticism. Josh Harris, I think the new ownership group is good for DC.
I think it is too, but they have to prove themselves.
Right, they got to. I think that's part of it.
So good for him for taking a risk.
As I said, listen, I mean, if Dan Snyder was there, man, Redskin 1 would have been fired up. He'd have been in Foxborough or Tuscaloosa, giving Bill Belichick or Nick Saban blank checks.
He'd be like, come back to Maryland and West Virginia, boys.
Yep, fire up Redskin 1.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, Redskin 1. Well, let's switch into.
Well, by the way, speaking of, is Dan Snyder still like a man without a country?
I think.
I mean, is he still stuck on his yacht? Because he was. He was coming to grips last summer with his Judaism and stuff because he was so moved by it. I mean, that nobody believed. It was just simply, how can I avoid being served with a subpoena from the U.S. Congress?
Right, exactly.
But no, his devotion to his
it was so transparent.
To his faith was. But I still said, I mean, when's the last time this guy's feet have been on dry land? I mean, is he still a man without a country?
Waters.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just floating out in international waters.
I'm sure it's on a hell of a yacht, but I mean, still, it's like, he's an old salty dog by now. I mean, his feet hasn't touched.
Exactly.
He'll get one of those people. He'll get sick when he gets on dry land instead of motion sickness. He'll have land sickness.
Legs, yeah. No, I don't, to be quite honest, I haven't given much thought to
it. Yeah, I know, but I wonder if he's still, still adrift.
Well, we'll do the research and we'll let you know.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Goodness. Our buddy Nathan Price and I were laughing about that a couple days ago. I was thinking, is he still floating around? Yeah.
Just in a big pool
and his super yacht, his family has to stay. He has to keep the boat out in international waters, and they have to have someone
dinghies come in and out. I would like to see my son now. Bring him out. Bring him in the dinghy.
Yeah.
So, speaking of getting rid of ownership that we don't really like in Maryland,
yes.
The O's sold 1.
Well, the deal's being worked out.
Deal's being worked out. It's all done except for the
dotting. You need obviously Major League Baseball approval, which, by the way, they are expediting.
Yes, they are.
So interesting how fast they're.
Because they're like, we want you out.
Yeah.
$1.75 billion purchase by the Rubenstein Group. It's got a bunch of people together with that, including Cal Ripken Jr. Right. He's going to be a minority owner.
Grant Hill.
Former Baltimore mayor.
Yep, Kurt Schmoke, a Rhodes Scholar, mind you.
Yes, and I mean, it's a good group of people, group of Marylanders.
I did hear and David Rubenstein, City College boy from Baltimore,
yep.
The head of the Carlisle Group.
Super excited.
I did hear an interesting thing about why they're able to expedite it, and because what they said is David Rubenstein is such a known quantity to all the financial world. Okay, he runs the Carlisle Group. It's a huge investment firm. I mean, he was just in Davos talking. So they're saying, like, with Rubenstein, if there were skeletons, they would have been out there.
They would have known.
Yeah.
Because they've done such deep dives on him.
And so he will acquire a 40% equity stake, which will make him the largest single owner.
Yeah.
And he will be the managing member.
He's the controlling.
And then,
person.
And then the other 30% of the Angeles Group will transfer to Rubenstein upon the death of Peter G. Angelos.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you avoid capital gains taxes.
Well, and that was I think we've talked about it on here. I've certainly talked to my friends about it. A lot of this is being driven by capital gain.
Yeah.
And you have, because inheritance tax, you're not going to get it. Mm-hmm. So, their basis, if we're going to have tax lessons, $173 million. So, so what's 40% or what's the percentage? Or it's probably about 60% of that 1.7 is going to be subject to capital gains, but the other won't be. So, it was, but David Rubenstein didn't get to where he was without being able to come up with creative financial solutions.
Absolutely. And we've been tracking this for a while. They had a meeting in DC, and Angela's family had a meeting with him in DC, and we're like, okay, great. That might be a thing. And then we say, well, the capital gains taxes and the deal at the stadium wasn't completely done. And now in that deal for the stadium, it did say that it would still hold true if ownership changed because they kind of knew this was coming. So I think it's good.
Apparently the leadership in Annapolis feels like they may have been, even though they're going to go, they're happy about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wes said he was happy about it.
Yeah, but I feel like they also think they may have been misled. The state treasurer said, and I thought, man, it's hard to believe Angeles wasn't shooting straight.
No, it's just shocking.
I know.
It's shocking.
Treasurer,
shame on you. You should have known better. But yeah, so that's exciting. And also 10 days till pitchers and catchers report.
And a very important pitcher is going to report for the Orioles.
Mm-hmm.
The Orioles just completed a trade with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yep.
Gets former Cy Young Award winner, 29 years old, Corbin Burns.
Yep.
Has been one of the best starters in baseball since he really broke out in 2020. The Orioles traded D.L. Hall, Ortiz, a minor league, very good defensive glove, a draft pick, 34th overall for next year. The conventional baseball now, and Burns is on a 1 year left before he hits free agency.
Yep.
But still, when you read whatever the pundits know, the Orioles won this trade. I mean, a lot of Brewers fans thought like the Orioles have committed a crime. It's so bad. I mean, I saw somewhere someone said this will go down as the best trade in the Orioles since they traded Milt Pappas for Frank Robinson. Well, I still point out about, hey, we traded Eric Bedard for, amongst other things, Adam Jones.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the pitcher that we got that was kind of a Chris Tillman. And we had another guy in that, which was also a crime for what the Orioles did. Because I think Eric Bedard pitched about 9 games and his arm was done after that. And to get, the captain and to get Tilly. So this trade certainly, could potentially be in the mix. But I said Burns it gives you a legit number one.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you watch the Orioles all year, a lot of people were saying, hey, Kyle Bradish is really on the way to being an ace. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have, Burns, Bradish, G-Rod, who's, obviously the guys with all the talent. Yeah. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. And you're going to see hopefully John Means at 4.
Yep.
And then there's also the rumor is that the Orioles might not be done. Dylan Cease, the White Sox still want to make a trade.
Really?
So but the Orioles acquired a premium pitcher and did not part with any of their top 5 prospects.
I know, it's amazing.
And again, but that's also the strength of the Orioles prospect list when you can give you 2 guys on the top 100 and they're not in the top 5 of your prospects.
It's incredible.
It's Michael Elias said when he came here,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to create an elite pipeline of talent, and that's exactly what they've done.
Listen, Rubenstein needs to keep that man, and he needs to keep that man happy, and he needs to give him whatever he wants, because I'll tell you what, it's fun to go to Baltimore and watch the O's do well.
But listen, I think,
you said this was going to be the year.
I think I kept thinking they were ahead. The last 2 years they've been ahead.
Yeah.
Obviously injuries are always going to take a place. But you got some young guys now that all have some experience, even if it wasn't a lot, they got a lot of bad taste in their mouth. Yeah. But Adley Rushman and Gunnar Henderson, Cedric Mullins, Santander, those guys all know what it's like to play in the playoffs now. Yeah. May not, their starting pitchers know what it's like. I think, boy, if you had Batista, still in the back end, I think the bullpen's still a little questionable, but I think they have talent to go make moves.
Yeah.
And if you get Dylan Cease, then you got, you have more starters you can put in the mix out of the bullpen. So, I think the Orioles, and I've said this for a while, are going to be a handful for.
They were a handful last year.
They're going to be a handful for the American League for a while.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Again, it's going to be super fun. I'm just happy that baseball's coming.
Listen, I am biased, but I think if you look at the American League East right now, and
the beast,
I think the beast, and I think it's going to be competitive. But if you don't think that the Orioles are the favorite, I don't think you understand baseball.
No, I
think they are so good positionally. They have so much flexibility. They can beat you so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the Yankees got Juan Soto. Yeah. So once again, they're going to move station to station.
God.
They can't. They don't hit well for average.
Nope.
They have no one who can lead off. They run station to station. I still think that's an inherently broken lineup.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's just poorly constructed.
It's been that way for years now.
Pitching other than Garrett Cole, they seem to have constant health problems.
Yeah.
So, the Red Sox are, I don't know what they're doing.
Listen, your guess is as good as mine at this point.
Tampa is doing what Tampa does. Always going to be good, but I think they're kind of retooling right now. And Toronto, I don't think they have the mental fortitude.
Don't think about Toronto.
Yeah, I don't think they have the mental fortitude.
No, they don't.
They seem to break.
They do. Yeah.
The Orioles, much like when the Red Sox and the Yankees were good, especially in the 90s, 2000s, I think the Orioles are going to be one of those kind of teams that delights in kind of breaking you. The Orioles are cocky.
They are.
But they play with that fire. Like they're going to come in and
they're a Baltimore team.
Right. They're going to come in and say, "Man, we're going to make you work. We're going to work the counts. We're going to work. We're going to run. We're going to do all the stuff we do to get under your skin." To start to unnerve you, and if you want to, we can be chippy too.
Yeah.
I don't think the Orioles are dirty at all, but the Orioles are going to play. Listen, Gunnar Henderson plays with an edge. When you get Jackson Holliday up there, these guys are going to be chippy.
Yeah,
and that's what you need. I mean, much like Dustin Pedroia was chippy.
Yes,
Derek Jeter, those guys are chippy. Paul O'Neill, one of the chippiest. If I was constructing a baseball player, not on talent, I always love Paul O'Neill's attitude. I mean, that is a chippy guy.
Yeah.
Like he was in this to win. He's going to play hard. He's always looking to go first to third. The Red Sox have had guys like that too. I mean, Nomar's a chippy guy, but Nomar was always looking to go first to third. David Ortiz is a chippy guy. And I think you're going to see that out of Baltimore. It's exciting times for the Orioles.
Yeah. 10 more days.
Yeah.
10 more days.
Ain't the beer cold?
Oh my God, I can't wait. Caitlin Clark. We got to talk about Caitlin Clark.
Selling tickets, man. Yeah. College Park. She's coming to College Park. Is it today? I think it's today or tomorrow.
Today
or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Cheapest ticket at Xfinity Center is $256, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
I will say the Hawkeyes have been sold out season ticket wise since last year when they opened it up for women's basketball. They sold it out in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay.
Yeah.
And an average ticket to go see her anywhere is about $243.
Yeah. I guarantee you there are a lot of folks that bought season tickets to Maryland women's basketball because they are fans, and I mean that's great, but also bought them for this one game.
I agree.
Because look, Maryland women draw really well, but you can usually Maryland's men draw well, but I can always get a ticket. $20, $30.
Sure.
Yeah, $256 today.
Yeah, and you're gonna have a real hard time getting in. So she's on a record-breaking streak here. She's at, as of today, 3,424. She's
about to become the all-time scorer in women's basketball.
Yes, and then she is on the hunt for all-time scorer in NCAA history.
And she's in about 200 points or so behind Pete Maravich?
I think. Yeah, like 200 points behind, and she's averaging.
We were just googling this.
Yeah, and she averages about 35 points a game.
Yeah. So,
and that's on a good night.
And you were telling me beforehand, so by the way, if you don't know, you should know. Do yourself a favor, go to YouTube and Google Pistol Pete Maravich at LSU.
Yep.
It is one of the, if you have not seen, I don't care what the reel looks like, how bad the images might be.
Matter.
It still translates very well to some of the most outrageous stuff you've ever seen.
As I say, it's the most beautiful, smooth basketball you're ever going to see. And his family came out in support of Caitlin Clark and said, I think our dad would love her style and love her way of playing. And just like, because she just pulls up and shoots, and it's like, it's really beautiful to watch. But yeah, so I love that families, they could go either way. They'd be like, well, she's doing it. He only did it in 3 years.
Yeah.
Or
They didn't put up all those.
They didn't do any of that, which I love because it doesn't take away from the fact that their dad was the all-time, is still the all-time greatest. But you can't, that records are meant to be broken.
Absolutely. And they certainly get that. And again, Pete Maravich, I don't think people would say he's the all-time greatest player in college basketball, but he is one of the great showmen. He did average somewhere between 44 and 45 points because he only could play 3 years back then. Freshmen couldn't play varsity. And he did score 44 points a game with no three-point line. He dribbled and made passes and shots like he was a Harlem Globetrotter, but was a player good enough to play in the NBA for a very long time.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the Globetrotters' talents, but I'm saying a lot of those guys are really good showmen and can do amazing stuff with the basketball, but they can't translate to the NBA.
Right.
Pete Maravich did.
Yeah.
He wasn't as good in the NBA as you thought he would have been, but he had a very long career. And I'm so glad that his family's supportive, because what Caitlin Clark does, I mean, again, it's different, but man, like, I think she most relates to, in the modern day, Steph Curry. I think her game is very much like Steph Curry's, about, every shot looks good.
Yeah, I'll pull up.
There's no range where you're thinking, oh, that's not really in my range. Like, I don't think when she gets past half court, I don't think Caitlin Clark says, oh, that's too far away.
Right. I honestly think that we've been beating the drum for women's sports for a really long time on this podcast. And I think that, now the tide is turning. You've got, we watched the NC State and North Carolina game that sold out.
Yeah.
You're watching South Carolina LSU game, sold out. Right. Had so here's a fun statistic. An NBA game, I think it was a Celtics game, 1.3 million people watched that game. 1.9 million people watched the LSU South Carolina game. So I mean, the numbers don't lie, and I feel like WNBA is starting to pick up again.
I still think they're missing the boat.
WNBA is totally missing the boat.
I do not understand.
They need better leadership.
How women's college basketball can be this consistently popular, and you cannot do the same.
You can't translate that.
You can't translate that. It's same stars, okay? Yeah, NCAA men's basketball is very popular during March.
Yes.
Okay? But those players, we all follow them when they go to the NBA. Like, the NBA is popular. I mean, look, you're going to get into the NBA sweet spot now. As soon as the NBA owns mid-February through the end of March, essentially.
Because it's that in hockey.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you're looking at.
And in the vast majority of North America, it's basketball.
Yeah. I like hockey, but my God,
I like hockey live. It's much better to watch live.
Yeah.
But but the NBA,
minor league hockey is amazing.
The NBA is able to do this, and again, the WNBA's got to step up their game.
Yeah, and I think that, so they're doing 3-point shootout competition this year, and it's going to be Steph Curry and the woman from the Liberty who was just...
I'm blanking on her name.
Yeah, me too. But she's like, I'll do it.
That's the point. We shouldn't be blanking on her name.
Right. That's the thing. It's sort of like your market. So the kids coming out of college...
Ayeshka? She was the one that played at Oregon, the triple-double machine.
Exactly.
But I should know her name better than this.
We should both know her name. But my point is like, you sit there and you go, okay, you've got women in college having NIL deals. They're active. They're cultivating their fan base. They have an entire infrastructure around them. Why aren't you creating teams for these women to play on? Right. And why aren't you creating maybe a smaller venue, not an arena, but a smaller, more intimate venue, so people know that they can get up close and personal and see the good basketball that's being played.
They need to follow the rule of politics. So the rule of politics is this: if you're having an event in a room and the room is half full, you move to a smaller room.
That's exactly right.
You have to make it look packed. It doesn't matter if you're in a closet.
Yep.
Okay, but you want it to seem rambunctious and packed in there. Oh man, that's the place to be.
That's my theory with restaurants. If I walk by and it's a huge restaurant and you might have 50 tables and 25 of them are full, it looks like nothing. And if you had a restaurant
12
with
tables
12 tables,
it's packed
and there's a line.
Yeah,
I want to go there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a totally
it's image.
It's a total image. And I think the WNBA has an image problem, and I think that they have a relatability problem when it comes to, instead of, and their season, I will say, is in the summer, which is hard. You're competing with baseball. You're competing with
vacations and stuff.
You're competing with just the fact that people want to be outside and not watching TV or in an arena.
Right.
So I feel, and the women's soccer is also on the up.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of competition in that time. So maybe it's the best thing for them was the pandemic when they did the WNBA NBA season in parallel.
And I would still say, does that make sense? And does it make sense too?
Does make sense.
So by the way, you want me to put more butts in the buckets? It's like, hey, I'm going to play a women's game, hour break, men's game. Okay.
Yeah.
Selling 2-for-1 tickets though, and sharing something, but because by the way, all right, so I'm going down to see the Wizards play because they don't move the needle for me. Maybe if they're playing like the Celtics or somebody.
Maybe if they were the Bullets.
Right. Or if they were playing the Lakers, so I could see LeBron or something.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And they're saying, hey, the Wizards team are going to play like the Sparks. And I get, hey, you already got the men's ticket.
Mystics.
The Mystics. Do you want to add this on for an extra $10? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Even if I only make it for the second half, I'm there, and then I see the product and say, "Oh man, this is pretty good." Like, I like it. And I'm obviously somewhat familiar with the product, but you know what I mean. Like, so I think
it needs to be incentivized.
I think they need to be more creative, and I think it's on. This isn't about TV.
No,
it isn't about any. It isn't about a bunch of old white men keeping WNBA. I think WNBA is keeping themselves down. I think they have to get better.
I think they're too afraid.
Yeah.
To you know what I mean. You have to take risks in order to grow.
They're too afraid to fail,
Yep.
and you know what? Sometimes you got to put it all out there and see what happens.
And I think that honestly, if you had a parallel season, it would benefit everybody because WNBA players would show up to NBA games and NBA players would show up to WNBA games. And you see that now, but it's much easier for them to do during the season if you're playing if you're playing 2 home games, great. Or you do it where you have you play when they're away and then vice versa. I just don't understand why it wouldn't be benefit and the arena place would have staff working more. They would be making and generating more money. I just don't understand why that won't work. Right. It has worked in the past. So, that's our 2 cents, WNBA, like get it together. But yeah, Caitlin Clark is killing it at Iowa.
And by the way, I'm going on the record right now. Caitlin Clark will be back at Iowa next year. She's making way too much money in the NCAA to take the pay cut.
You know what? I don't blame her.
I don't blame her either. And by the way, so someone said, "Oh, but she could get hurt her career, but she's going to make so much money this year, next year. She's in a financial better shape." If she was my daughter or my client, I would certainly be advising her to come back to Iowa.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, come on, why not?
Yep, I agree.
Well, I mean, we don't really have anything else to talk about. I mean, I think it's pretty good.
No, we're gonna lead into the Super Bowl next week.
Super Bowl next week. We're gonna have. We'll do our over-unders.
Yeah, and we'll have some of the prop bets.
We'll have the prop bets going. Yeah. I
wonder if there's going to be over-under how many times they'll show Taylor Swift on TV. Again, I don't hate Taylor Swift.
Do you think she's going to be there, though?
Yeah, I think she's going to be there. Well, that'll be the bet.
So the
first bet, will she come or not? I think she's coming. I think she's flying back from Tokyo. The time's going to work in her favor.
That's insane to me. But here's the other thing. Okay, so I've been to Asia. I know how long the trip is. I know how long it took me to recover. Right. And I also know that she has shows in Australia. Yeah. Like 4 days later or something like that.
But you were also flying probably coach in a plane.
Oh
she will be flying in a Gulfstream.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. But it's still,
very strongly.
Listen, it's still going to wreak havoc.
Being a very powerful jet, okay? Maybe not Trump one, but, powerful. Very, very strong.
No, but you know what I mean? I'm just like, man, if I was already over there, it's not a short flight. It doesn't matter if it's private or not.
Why I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan is because she seems to somehow also be driving the conservative media crazy.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, it's spectacular, isn't it? Yeah. And it's just like,
because they live in fear. Well, she shouldn't make it. They live in fear of her endorsement of Joe
Isn't that
Biden.
Funny?
Yes.
I think it's hysterical.
Yeah,
and she's like, she said nothing.
I know,
she's not done anything.
But they just can't help themselves.
I know. Yeah, they're just like, this could happen.
So I'm enjoying that.
Yeah. They're getting all in a tizzy about it.
I think she's absolutely going to be there.
If it were me, I'd be like, honey, have a nice game. Let me know who wins. Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. I'm going to be in Japan, and then I'm going to fly to Australia. It just seems
I'm going to make more in this concert than you've made in your career.
Well, she's doing 4.
Yeah, I get it.
The thing is, like, she's doing 4 concerts. And then she immediately would have to get on a plane and fly to Las Vegas. Yeah. And then she's got to go all the way back to Australia. This is not like California to New York.
Right.
This is
the thing I'm saying is if I was flying to Las Vegas now, I've been to Las Vegas. Yeah. Only one reason I'm flying to Las Vegas.
To gamble.
No, duh.
What are you doing?
You think it's over. It's never over. Dead and Company. At the Sphere.
Right. Oh, you're going to the Sphere?
I might.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, you go to the Sphere, that's fine. If you have any sort of motion sickness, if you get sick, like, don't go to the Sphere. I've heard this. Like, people like...
I do have a weak constitution.
Well, I'm just telling you, I don't want you to fall and hit your head and then you bleed and then you really pass out. So I think that, you know...
I'm sure I'd be like, completely sober anyway, so I'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think there's certain places that you have a better chance of not getting vertigo.
Yeah.
And where you're sitting.
I understand that.
Yeah. I asked a friend of mine, I said, listen, Sphere. And he went, no way. He looked at me, he goes, no way. And I go, okay, just checking.
Somebody said, though, if you're there, you might be able to picture a bright blue ball just spinning free.
Spinning free. Yeah, I think you should go if you're gonna go. They also have great like national parks and go to the Hoover Dam. You can't go in the Hoover Dam though. I've been in the Hoover Dam.
There you go.
Yeah, fun.
Well,
fact.
damn you.
It was spectacular.
So,
yeah,
season 4, episode 13, lucky number 13 in the books.
Oh,
so
Taylor Swift's lucky number.
Yeah, there. Boom. All right, June, mic drop. Yeah.
So I have one.
So there's her number, so you can call her maybe.
That wasn't her.
Oh,
but that was close.
It was close though. I tried. Okay.
Matt's attempted.
So, but if you just stumbled on the Taylor Swift lucky number 13 edition of season 4, Lydia, and you want to find the previous 3 seasons and the previous 12 episodes in this season, where can you find us?
iTunes, Stitcher, Amazon, Google Play, Spotify, Audible,
Love Audible,
iHeartRadio, Deezer, Player FM, and Samsung.
Also can find us on
Facebook. We're at You Don't Know Jack Pod. We're on Instagram at JackYDK Pod.
You're on Twitter at JackYDK.
Yep.
You can find Lydia on Twitter
at RTL Pod.
You can find me at JMGGMPG. So next week we'll be back previewing the Super Bowl. Thanks for listening. Like us, share us, all that
I have
good
one
stuff.
announcement.
All right.
So I'm producing a new podcast.
Oh, wow.
It's called Fused.
Nice.
It's with Russell Shorto and Urian Rice.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's
look back, find our episodes. We've had Russell Shorto as a guest, star, small time. About the Rembrandt. I forget the name of the article I wrote in the New York Times. He's written multiple articles.
Yeah.
Man, you got to check Russell Shorto out. That's awesome.
Great. Yeah. So we're doing this thing. It's about nuclear fusion and new. Listen,
I love it, man.
It's spectacular. We have 3 episodes out.
I like to read anything. Russell Shorto writes, so I'm going to start listening to this myself.
So it's a great. I am not on it. I just produce it, but it's a fantastic show. And
shout out to Fused. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I did want to mention really one last thing.
Sure.
R.I.P. The Russians finally got him. Yeah. Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
Drago couldn't get him, but he did pass away. So super shout out. My buddy Nate Price and I were texting. He thinks that the movie Predator is the Mona Lisa of action films. We both agree. We don't understand how it didn't win Best Picture. I mean, Carl Weathers, Jesse the Body Ventura, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Come on, man. I mean, that is a smorgasbord of acting talent. But he is Apollo Creed. But no, Carl Weathers, Happy Gilmore star as well. But a very,
Adam Sandler had some very lovely things to say.
Yeah,
about him.
but Carl Weathers, the Count of Monte Fisto, the King of Sting.
He's also in Star Wars.
Yeah, no, that was Billy D. Williams.
Oh, that's Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
Why did I think he was in Star Wars?
Because he looked like Billy D. Williams.
Oh, that's true.
So someone else brought that up to me a couple days ago. I said, no, that's Billy D. Williams.
Why? Fun. I have never seen Star Wars, so I really can't even.
If you don't know, now you know.
Now
Billy
I know.
D. Williams.
Yeah.
So that's it. Episode 13, season 4. See you next week.